reaction to a presentation by Richard Sutton he just gave recently at UCLA. Now, Sutton, in my opinion, is the most important researcher, not just in AI, but the most important academic figure in today's world. I think, at least to my knowledge, of course. And here's why. I think he has this unbelievable ability to formulate complex issues in very simple terms. He's working on the most important project humanities ever worked on, which is to create intelligent machines. I'm going to define intelligence in a second using his definition. And I think he also has a very healthy mind, politically, socially, and academically. And I think that's sometimes a bit underrated. Like, you can have very smart people with not so healthy minds, and then you can have a lot of healthy minds that aren't not so smart. So this combination is really very interesting. This is not even on podcast. It's February 18, 2026. This is Krim Delco. It's the second installment today, so we're down 7%. For the year, the market's flat. We're underperforming by 7%. So Sutton just gave this presentation. The presentation is not necessarily a new idea. He spoke about the area of experience already a few months ago in Iceland, at least to my knowledge. Maybe he spoke about this also elsewhere, but I picked up this presentation he gave about his actual oak architecture, which is supposed to capture the area of experience. The area of experience is an essay he wrote together with David Silver. They are basically the intellectual parents of AlphaGo. So all that DeepMind fuss about what they did and you know, all that Demis Hassabis accolades that he's getting, and you know, His Majesty Demis taking all the credit for himself, the actual intellectual fathers of AlphaGo and the whole DeepMind approach, at least in the early days. These are the intellectual roots, and that's why I have a huge respect for David Silver. Not that I want to diminish DeepMind and Google's work. I mean, they are the industrial version of this, and they're obviously executing phenomenally. So at least Google. So that's besides the point. Let me get back to to Sutton. So what is he saying in this essay? I think he's saying a few things that are very important. The area of experience is a new area of AI. So he's talking about the current area of AI that we're in, which is AI trained on human data. So the AI itself is, the large language models are not designed and architected like the human brain, because we don't know how the human brain is architected. So they are machines, but they're trained on human data. So they're trained on human data, and that's important because, number one, that has enabled an enormous advancement in AI, because we have a lot of human data. We can actually mimic a lot of human things, such as language and poetry and a lot of human workflows. But what we can't do, of course, is penetrate into new levels of intelligence that humans are incapable of doing. For that, we need a new type of architecture, and that's the era of experience, where the machines learn by interacting with nature. So the feedback loop comes from nature. The reward signal is either positive or negative based on the agents pursuing their own goals. And the oak architecture designed by Sutton is in particular taking into account those goals and how those goals are set. And then again, the reward signal comes from nature itself. So there is that is the definition of truth. It's, you get a positive reward signal from nature. If it's positive, it's true. If it's negative, it's not true. So there's no committee, there's no human group whatsoever, whether it is not democratic or undemocratic, doesn't matter. It is nature itself that decides what is true and what isn't. So this is very Popperian. This is very vermicelitude-esque. So you cannot really ever get to the absolute truth, but the way you get to the truth or closer to the truth is by delivering against the signals from nature. So that's a massively important. It's a massively important statement that we here at Orange Capital Partners totally are buying into. That's why we are invested in NVIDIA, because we believe that this type of area of experience requires massive amounts of compute and also massive amounts of power and energy, and that's why I invested in Tesla and SpaceX and X, which in our opinion soon will be one company, because with Tesla, SpaceX and X, you get all the ingredients that are necessary for the area of experience. You get the power, the energy, you get the compute, and most importantly, you also get the goal setting and the feedback loop through the use cases, the real world robots, the cars, and the Optimi that actually operate in the real world and generate feedback loops. So, but back to Sutton, I think what I want to say here is actually another thing which he is mentioning, and that is the he's talking about two things that I think are new to me, and I want to mention them. One is he's actually predicting what's going to happen, and he's using what I call the Jeff Bezos method. So he's predicting the future, not based on some, I'm reading the cards or the tea leaves, not that way. He's just sort of stating the same way Jeff Bezos said in his early shareholder letters, I can't predict the future, but I know for sure people will always want lower prices and higher value, and companies will always want more cash flow, things like that. So he's doing similar predictions. For example, he's saying that we will actually transition into industrial scale intelligence. Intelligence, by the way, defined by John McCarthy as the computational part of the ability to achieve goals. So we will invest heavily into intelligence. Who is going to do it, whether it's the Chinese or us? People will become a lot smarter, and those who have that intelligence at their disposal, by the way, people will get smarter because they will have access to that intelligence, and those who have that access to that intelligence will generate more power for themselves. So those are predictions that are, I think they're good predictions, because that's what's going to happen. And it's not, of course, up to us now to decide whether we want to be those who generate that type of intelligence and get the power, or whether we want others to get that. But that's one thing that he's saying, and I think it's a useful way to think about it also in light of what's going on politically. I think the Trump administration is doing a great job in actually formulating a similar message to, for example, the Department of War. Hexet is saying, look, we're going to use advanced technology. Advanced technology is going to be used in warfare, and we just have a choice whether we want to use it or other people want to use it, but it's going to happen. So to pretend that we don't want to use it, or some pacifistic, non-belligerent type of attitude, is actually much, much worse, and is going to put people into servitude longer in the long run. The other thing that Sutton talks about, which is very dear to my heart, that is the question of how we should actually organize ourselves in light of this massive new powerful technology that we're building. And he's using the same argument that I'm using in my essay just published. The title of the essay is What If AI Proves the Riemann Hypothesis and Nobody Looks? So in that essay, I make the same argument, and that is that the best way to organize a society of very powerful individuals, because we're going to live in a CEO society where everybody has access to these massive amounts of labor and intelligence, it is a decentralized decision-making mechanism. So it's a voluntary decentralized decision-making mechanism that is better than any kind of centralized committee. So when it comes to AI safety, a voluntary decentralized mechanism that is market-driven, so safety will be decided by the companies and the individuals who built that technology and who provide the best safety, as decided by a decentralized market mechanism, not a centralized committee or anything like that. I think that, in my opinion, that's also the answer to any kind of organization, economic organization, not just the AI part of it, but again, we want to have a voluntary decentralized organization of people making choices and then being sanctioned by the marketplace, by the same decentralized process You're either going to surface and be adapted, tolerated, or you're not. And that has to happen through a decentralized voluntary process. It's the best system we have. I want to put in there also the Popperian understanding of democracy, which is that this type of decentralized decision-making process should also be sanctioned in a way that better solutions prevail and can be replace worse solutions, and that has to happen without violence. Now, the U.S. Constitution and the values of the United States are the closest to that kind of system. That's why we argued in the essay that the best way to ensure a long-term outcome, positive outcome for humanity with this powerful technology is if we can build it within the value system of the United States, because we, based on our Constitution and our system and our society, have the best chance to safeguard a decentralized voluntary decision-making mechanism, not just within deciding what AI should be and all that, but also in making sure that we don't use this type of AI to actually create a system of top-down authoritarianism. So to summarize, I think Sutton's clear and healthy way to look at the world is very inspiring. I really encourage people to look at his work, his essays. His academic papers are a bit more difficult to read, but he's a very accessible person. His presentations are, even the technical ones, are relatively accessible. This presentation that I'm putting in the show notes is a very broad, general presentation that I recommend everybody watches. He's making a few predictions about what's going to happen. I think those predictions have a canonical truth to it. So there's no conversation about the fact that this AI technology will be adopted by humanity. The question is, are we going to adopt it or others? And there's no question that those who have it will be powerful. So those kinds of predictions, I think, are valid. And then the other thing that he's talking about is the way we should make decisions about which AI to use and how to use it. The question of safety, which in my opinion, and I'm paraphrasing Sutton here, anybody who talks about AI safety really is talking about AI control. People don't like others to control AI. They want to control AI, and that is not acceptable. We need an open, decentralized, voluntary decision-making mechanism that surfaces better solutions and sanctions worse solutions. Thank you.